G'day to all my friends and family, and welcome to this episode of Jim's 5am Club. I'm just in the car going on a drive, and I'm heading to my Uncle Jimmy's house down in Camden. And I thought today what I'd do is take the scenic route rather than the route along the M7. So we could go through, do a book summary, and also see a little bit of countryside and make the drive a little bit more interesting. It may take an additional 10 or 15 minutes, but at the end of the day, nobody's chasing me. I'm taking my time, and I've got an opportunity, as I said, to reflect on a few thoughts that I have, given that my Auntie Angela, my Uncle Jimmy's dear wife, only just recently passed away. She passed away on Boxing Day after a long, debilitating illness that was painful and created a lot of discomfort. My auntie unfortunately had a very rare disease, a very rare illness known as scleroderma, which causes the skin to become dry and the body to tighten up, and it impacts the blood vessels and it scars the blood vessels. And my auntie, to her credit, my uncle, to his credit, battled this disease for a long period of time, so much so that I think that my auntie is probably the longest survivor of scleroderma, having battled it for well over 20-25 years. So as I mentioned before, this disease creates pain, creates discomfort. But the important lesson that I learned is that suffering, personal suffering, is optional. Whilst my auntie went through pain and great discomfort, her tremendous faith, her tremendous belief in God, gave her an unbelievable strength to see through the pain and discomfort and continue to be a positive person, continue to love God, continue to serve God, and to become a great role model for all of us to look up to. And as I mentioned the other day, I think that from my perspective, my Auntie Angela was a person who expressed her faith in God the best out of all the people that I've ever been with in my life. Her unwavering belief, her unwavering trust in God's providence, the fact that she'd be in hospital and she'd continued to read the scriptures, continued to read the Gospels, continued to train and to practice her chanting, so that one day she could get back to church and to chant and to serve God with all her mind, body and spirit, and to serve each other, her family, and to be the guider, to guide us with her wisdom, with her beautiful words, her stories, and to give us all hope in our lives, and to give her hope in her life, that her unique struggle, that her unique path was something that we could all learn from. So I'm heading off to catch up with my Uncle Jimmy. All of my cousins, or many of my cousins, will be there. My Auntie Angela's children, Petros, Cassandra, Maria and Sophia, as well as my Auntie Anna will be there and her family. So it'll give us an opportunity to catch up as a family and to prepare for these very difficult days ahead with the preparation of the funeral to lay my auntie to rest. So it'll take me about half an hour, 40 minutes to get there. So I've got some time ahead of me. So what I'd like to do is to take this moment. So I'd like to take this moment to be productive on my journey to Camden and to go through a book summary. And the book summary that I've selected to go through today is one entitled No Self, No Problem. And it's a book by an author named Chris Niebauer. And it's a book that focuses on some of the teachings of Buddha. But what I'll do is, given that I am Christian, I will try and build some parallels between what this author is saying, what the message he's trying to encapsulate, and deliver it in a way that can, I guess, build a bridge and to join the missing dots between the Buddhist faith and the Christian faith. And one of the questions that this book raises at the very outset is the question of happiness, and more importantly, why are people generally unhappy, and to try and dig a little bit deeper into understanding what triggers this unhappiness, and conversely what one can do to trigger and to take one along a path of happiness. And the author makes a very profound point, a point that is not unique, to Buddhism, but the fact that 99.9% of everything that we think about and everything that we do is generally for ourselves. And the author says that realistically there is no self, because when we are born, when we are created, when we come into the world, given that we are social beings, everything around us is in relation and relative to ourself, or to our relationships, to other people. So whilst we see things in terms of our selfhood, and in terms of our perspective, the reality is that we are a mirror, and we are a reflection of all the others in our lives, our mothers, our fathers, our brothers, our sisters, our family, our work peers. All of those relationships are key to enhancing and reflecting who we are, what we stand for, in the world. And it's upon us realizing that we are just not in this world on our own, and that we are a reflector, that we are a part of an organism, a living, moving and purposeful organism called life, that enables us to, I guess, gain a better perspective on what our purpose is and what the meaning of life is all about. So where is this taking us? Basically what we're doing here is we're opening up the door to the realization that there is more than one way to view life, and there is a distinct difference between Eastern and Western philosophy, and this book tries to get us to at least understand and appreciate the Eastern view of the world and of life and of religion, and to take us a little bit away from the Western view where everything is seen, accepted, coloured from the perspective of one's self and one's individuality. And I guess even in my own lifetime I've realised and I've appreciated that times have changed. When I was growing up, you know, the concept of family, of friends, of deep and meaning relationships with people who share the same blood, the same religion, the same culture was absolutely critical and key to one's fulfillment, one's growing up and enjoying the journey. But over the past 10 or 20 years, there has definitely been a push and a move to more people spending more time focusing on their own selfish needs and desires. So I'll just continue along this road and go towards Warragamba Dam. I haven't been to Warragamba for years, so it's only a 4-kilometre drive, a detour from my travels to my Uncle Jimmy's place. So given that I haven't been here for, wow, and I'm talking about 20 or 30 years, I might as well just drive along this road and see where it takes me, so I can come back here one day with my own children and grandchildren, just for something to do and to reminisce on those beautiful days that have gone by. So as we were mentioning before, there is a significant difference between East and Western philosophy and Eastern and Western religion as well, even amongst the Christians. I'm a member of the Greek Orthodox faith, which is called or is grouped as Eastern Orthodox Christianity, and it's quite different in some ways and in many other ways from the Roman Catholic version of Christianity. And even myself, I appreciate that there are some differences in terms of how we worship and how we live our lives, given that from my Greek Orthodox roots I can see that there is a focus on the worship of God as opposed to the worship of one's self. When somebody dies, my auntie died, you know, we go to the funeral, and at the funeral we worship worship God. Whereas in a Western funeral service, it's more about the person, it's more about a celebration of that person's life. Whereas when you go to a Greek Orthodox funeral, it's important to understand that we go there to worship God and to seek God's forgiveness of the person who has passed away, and we entreat and we plead with God to be lenient on the person who has passed away and to remember them in the second coming, but also between now and the second coming to be able to give the person who has passed away a foretaste of paradise everlasting, and to protect that person, the soul, and to try and be one with God. And also at Easter, it's important to understand that the Eastern Orthodox have a different perspective of Easter. I know that from my Greek Orthodox faith, the focus of Easter is more on the resurrection, the hope of life to come. Whereas the Western Church tends to be more focused on the passions, the pain, the suffering, the death of Jesus, is my understanding. And I'm saying that I'm not a theologian by any means, but I'd just like to share some of these lessons that I've learned over time and to try and put it into perspective so that we can understand some of the lessons of this book a little bit better. So I've come here to Warragamba Dam. I'll just keep on driving to see where it takes me. I don't know if I'll get to see the dam today unless I get out of the car. But the author then goes on to talk a little bit more and in a little bit more depth about this book, and from the Buddhist perspective. And he says that we tend to view the world from a Western perspective in terms of the I-ness, from the individual perspective, from the self-centeredness of our humanity. And the reason why we do that is that we tend to take the position in our lives of a storyteller, how everything is a reflection of how it impacts and how it reflects on us. And one of the reasons for this selfishness, I guess one could put it, and how we look at it as how it impacts us, is that we tend to use the left side of the brain, the rational side of the brain, a little bit more, and to help put things into perspective in terms of how it impacts us and how it's logically prescribed or described. But the author here says that it's important to understand that one's life is a focus of many, many different parts coming together. And it's not just us in the world, it's many aspects, many elements of the world that come together to help us experience our version of life. And that in essence, we are what our brain thinks of. We are what our brain thinks we are, as opposed to what's happening to us, as opposed to the experience, the thing around us happening, because we are what we focus on. We are what we think of. And it's important to understand that, and that our brain interprets what we see. How do I get here? Where did I come from? Let me just hang a right here. Just hang a right here. And I hope that I'm going in the right direction. Actually, I think I need to turn around and go back, so just let me find a place to turn around, because I don't want to be heading off randomly in the wrong direction. So just bear with me. So what we're saying here is that each and every person lives a unique and different life. My life is going to be completely different to your life. I'm going to experience and see and feel things completely different to how you see things and feel things, because we all have a different past, we all experience a different present. I am here, you are somewhere else, and we're all going to have a different future. And along the way, we're going to experience different things. We're going to focus on different things. And all of these slithers of reality, knowing that we can't all live perfect reality, because we can't be in all places at all times and focused and productive in how we see things and how we perceive things. So everything's going to be unique, and everything's going to be very, very different to each person. So we're all going to have a different future, a different life, a different experience. And that experience, as the author says, is going to depend on how we look at life, how we look at what's going on in the world. I think I've got myself lost here, but we'll just keep on talking, and eventually we'll figure it out. I might as well follow some of the other cars who may lead me out of this quandary that I'm in. So what we're saying here is that we're all going to have a different life, and we're going to interpret things differently. We're all going to have different slithers of reality, and they're going to lead us to different places. And I hope I'm getting led to the right place. So at the end of the day, what the author here tells us is that the life that we're going to live, what we're going to experience in the world, is going to depend on the stories that we tell ourselves and the words we choose to incorporate, that we choose to use to describe the experiences that we're having to ourselves. I'll head this way now. So it's quite interesting and quite powerful to think about these things that this book is raising with us. Because as we mentioned, we're all going to have different slithers of reality, and throughout our lives we're going to be piecing together, we're going to be comparing, we're going to be contrasting the slithers that we've accumulated, that we've compounded together, and depending on who we grow up with, depending on who we hang out with, we're going to have different stories that we tell ourselves. We're going to have different world views that we amass, and it's going to help us make sense of our world, given the prisms that we've been able to generate, given the stories, given the culture that we've been brought up in. And it will help, as we said before, colour and shape how we see our world, and to make sense of where we are and where we're heading. And I think once again I'm not heading in the right direction, so I'll just turn around here, just checking that there are no cars coming either way. And I can't put on my guidance system because I'm doing a vlog at the moment and I don't want to interrupt and use up too much battery. So the next point that comes from this book, from this author, is that we are using language. We are using our language to make sense of the world and to try and overcome or to stroke our ego. But what we're saying here is that the language that we use, the patterns that we incorporate, that we use to try, or the concepts that we use to try and find patterns in what's going around us, can also cause us pain and suffering, and can also lead us astray, and just like today, can get us lost. Where we're lost in these little roads with these little paths that we've taken. We don't have the perspective that we can look from above and to see that where we're going is wrong. And what we're saying here is that if you've got the wrong tools, if you're hanging out with the wrong people, if you've got the wrong perspective, then you're continually going to lead yourself further and further in the wrong direction. And sometimes we need to come to a junction. We need to come to a T intersection and take another path, or to ask directions and be, I guess, guided in the right direction. Am I going the right direction here? I think I came through here before, but I guess sooner or later we'll find another path and we'll take it, and hopefully it will lead us to where we should be going. Let me just go this way now. Let's see where it takes us. So we've also got to know that our worldview, our religion, our culture, our family structures also include biases and can send us in the wrong direction. go along here and see where it takes us. So there are biases, many biases that we are subjected to. There are confirmation biases. There are other biases that we pick up along the way. And our thoughts, the slithers of reality, give us our version of reality, but we need to be able to compare and contrast that to other versions of reality, and we can get that through looking at books, working with people, comparing and contrasting our experiences with other people's experiences, and hopefully making a better sense of the world and determining whether or not we're on track or off track. So where is this leading us? I think I feel better in terms of where I'm going, because there's a lot of cars coming in the opposite direction, and hopefully this will take me closer to Camden as opposed to further away from Camden. So the last point that the author makes here, which is a really powerful one, because my mantra for 2023 is use it or lose it. I'm starting to realise that I'm getting to an age, I'm turning 63 this year. My dear mother passed away at 63, and I'm on the right track, so I need to go to Silverdale, which is perfect. I'm on the right road, so I'll hang a right here and go towards Silverdale. So I'm starting to realise that I'm getting older, and my capacity, my capabilities are slowly starting to diminish. So what I'm going to do this year is I'm going to continue to push myself. I'm going to continue to push myself physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, to keep a momentum, so that whatever I've got, that I can at least try and maintain what I have. That's why I say use it or lose it. Use the muscles, use our health, use everything that we have, or else we'll lose it. And I do feel, looking around, that there is a propensity to fall away quite quickly once you get to a certain age. And my late uncle, Agilo Kathariptaki, did mention to me one day in terms of his philosophy of aging, and he took the quantum perspective, saying that we don't age linearly, we don't age in a straight line, I guess he was trying to suggest, but aging is a step function, that one day you wake up and you feel 70, whereas before that you felt 30 years of age, and then all of a sudden you grow up, you wake up one day and you're feeling a lot older than what you did the previous day. So what I'm going to try and do in my life, and what I'm going to try and encourage other people to do, is to try and stay as active as possible in all aspects of their life, to refrain from retiring for as long as they can, so that they can stay active in each aspect of their life, in each element of their life, to stay alive for as long as they can, and to fuel each area of their life. And this author here says that by moving your body, it can actually help you stay younger for longer. It can allow you to gain more control of your brain, and you can actually activate the right side of your brain. And this is where the author says that amongst the Buddhists, amongst the Eastern philosophies, they tend to be more right-sided. They tend to be more mystical. they tend to be more living their faith and their belief without evidence, not needing the evidence. And what the author here is saying is that by being more physical, by being more active physically, then what it does is that it can open up the right side of your brain to enable you to experience your faith from a different perspective, rather than being rational and logical, to be more feeling, to be more experiential, to experience God through your heart as opposed to experiencing God through your brain. And I've also read, and I know that the main difference between the Eastern Orthodox Church and the Roman Catholic Church and the Western churches is the difference in terms of how one tries to access and to experience God and their faith. Whereas the Eastern Church is more about experiencing God through their heart, through prayer, through fasting, through doing, whereas the Eastern Church is more of a experiencing God through their rational brain, through evidence bases and things like that. So what we're saying here is that there is an opportunity for each and every one of us, and regardless of whether or not you're experiencing or you practice an Eastern or a Western philosophy or an Eastern or Western faith, we can learn from each other. I know that my Greek Orthodox faith has elements that my Western brothers and sisters may not appreciate or understand, but given that I've lived it for most of my life and that I study it and I understand it and know it a little bit better, I do have an appreciation of how it may influence and it may get one closer to God and to bring one a greater satisfaction and a greater fulfillment in their spiritual journey. Because intuition, awareness, all of these things are things which are outside of one's rational mind. There's a certain element of belief and trust and faith that one needs to express in order to become more aware of things in their life, in their faith, and this opening up, this awareness that one can get is something that this book talks about, and something that I can appreciate and, as I said before, and understand. So thank you very much for joining me on this episode of Jim's 5am Club on this beautiful New Year's summer's day. It's the Tuesday, it's the 2nd of January. I've already blown my New Year's resolution, but I'll try and get back on track today. And as I said, my mantra for this year is to live, learn, pass it on, and to use it, else we lose it. So take care, everybody. Wishing you all the very best, and we'll chat again. Yassas, and bye for now.